Hello, and welcome to 5 Minute Math. Today, for our number talk, we are looking at the fraction 27/53, and we're trying to decide whether it is more or less than 1/2. We want to do this mentally, which means we're not going to use cross multiplication, or we're not going to convert both of these into decimals. One thing we can do right off the bat, though, is think about that fraction 1/2. I know that if I double 1/2, that means I'm just going to add it to itself. I'm going to get 2/2, because, right, 2/2 make a whole. And so I know that that is equal to 1, this 2/2. And how that's going to help me is I'm going to think about this 27/53, and I'm going to think, what happens if I double it? Well, I'm going to add it to itself. We know that when we add fractions, we need the same denominator, but that denominator doesn't get added. It's simply the unit. It's naming the unit that we're adding. So I'm going to be adding 50/3 and 50/3. My answer is going to be 50/3. How many 50/3? Well, I had 27/53 here, 27/53 here. If I add those together, that's going to get me 54 50/3. Now, how does that help? Well, if I wanted to make one whole, I would simply just write 53 50/3, because that's the same as one whole, because the same numbers on the numerator as is in the denominator. Any number you can make equal to 1 if you just write that same number in the numerator and denominator. So when I added 1/2 to itself, or doubled it, I got one whole exactly. When I added 27/53 to itself, or doubled it, I got slightly more than one whole, because 54 is just one bigger than that 53 that actually is an improper fraction, which makes me think that 27/53 is actually going to be a little bit bigger than 1/2, because when I doubled it, I got something bigger than one whole. Now, what's another way to think about this? Well, we can try to take half of 53 and just make that a fraction, but that's going to be difficult because it's an odd number. But let's take a look at the numbers next to it. Let's pretend we had a series of fractions like this. Okay, so what's half of 52? Well, that's going to be 26. What's half of 54? That's one more. That's 27. So just like 53 is in between 52 and 54, what number is in between 26 and 27? Well, you might be thinking there's no number in between 26 and 27. Well, if you're thinking whole numbers or integers, you'd be correct. But let's get into decimals. We can say 26.5. We know that 5/10 is the same as a half. So then we could say, all right, so 26 and 5/10 over 53, that's equal to 1/2, because that's exactly half of 53. So if I were to compare these, you see that 27, and we can go ahead and put a 0.0 there if we want to. You see that that 27.0 is going to be just a little bit bigger than that 26.5 or 26.5. So either way we look at it, we can say that 27/53 is greater than 1/2.